London is expensive. Everyone knows that. Your colleague who moved to Manchester knows that. Your parents who bought their house in 1987 for £40,000 know that, and they bring it up every Christmas. The average home in this city costs £525,000. That is nearly double the UK average. If you want Zone 2, you are probably starting at $500,000. That is just the entry point. But here is the thing. London is also cheap. Not everywhere, not even close to everywhere, but there are entire boroughs in this city. Real boroughs, with tube stations and schools and parks and communities that have been there for generations, where the average home costs £364,000, where a borough of 400,000 people sits inside Greater London with Elizabeth line access and land registry data showing prices that belong to a different city entirely. These places are real. They are verified by the UK House Price Index, published by the government in February 2026. And most people looking at Rightmove at midnight have absolutely no idea they exist. Today, we are counting down 10 of the cheapest London areas that still exist in 2026. Some will surprise you. One will make you question everything you thought you knew about this city. Let's get into it. Hillingdon is a borough of about 320,000 people in West London, stretching from Hayes in the south to Ruislip in the north, bordering both the M25 and Heathrow Airport. The average house price here is £454,000 according to the latest land registry figures. That number is not going to win any affordability headlines on its own, but what it buys in Hillingdon is worth understanding before moving on. Hillingdon is the second largest London borough by area. It contains more than 130 parks and open spaces, including the Colne Valley Regional Park, a 43-mile stretch of rivers, lakes, canals, and wetlands that runs along the western boundary of Greater London. It is the kind of landscape that people drive 3 hours to see on weekends. Hillingdon residents walk to it. The Piccadilly line runs through the borough from end to end, connecting Heathrow to central London with stations at Uxbridge, Hillingdon, and Ruislip in under 40 minutes to the West End. The Elizabeth line also passes through Hayes and Harlington. For a borough where £454,000 buys a 3-bedroom semi-detached house with a garden, not a flat, the transport case is genuinely competitive with parts of London that charge twice the price. There is an argument that Hillingdon has been structurally undervalued for years because of its association with Heathrow. Flight paths affect house prices. That is real. But the buyers who look at what £454,000 actually purchases in terms of square footage, garden space, school access, and rail connectivity, relative to what the same money buys 5 miles east, tend to find the Heathrow argument gets quieter once they have walked the streets. Enfield is a borough of about 340,000 people in North London, sitting at the northern tip of Greater London bordering Hertfordshire. The average house price in Enfield is £440,300, according to 2026 Zoopla and Land Registry data. For a borough with overground connections to Liverpool Street, Piccadilly Line, access, and the kind of housing stock, Edwardian and Victorian terraces, 1930s semis, genuine family homes with gardens, that inner London buyers spend their careers aspiring to, that price is a structural anomaly. Enfield Town is a functioning market town inside the M25. The market itself has been running for over 700 years. The high street has independent shops, a covered market, a civic theater, and a library. The kind of infrastructure that town planners now write reports about as a model for what urban communities should look like. 40 Green, Winchmore Hill, Palmer's Green, these are neighborhoods with tree-lined streets and Victorian housing that in any other North London postcode would carry prices 30 to 50% higher than what Enfield charges. Enfield also sits at the eastern end of the M25 corridor, with road access to Hertfordshire and Essex that makes it genuinely practical for households whose working lives involve movement rather than a single central London commute. The Lee Valley Regional Park, 10,000 acres of waterway, wetland, and open space running along the borough's eastern edge, is one of the largest urban green spaces in Europe, and it begins at the end of residential streets that cost £440,000 on average. The borough has had its challenges. Crime in parts of Enfield sits above the London average. Some of the southern areas around Edmonton carry more pressure than the leafier northern end of the borough. But Enfield is not one thing. It is a borough the size of a small city, and the price that applies to all of it includes some of the best value Edwardian housing stock inside the M25. Havering is the easternmost London borough, sitting on the outer fringe of the capital bordering Essex. It contains Romford, Hornchurch, and Upminster. The average house price in Havering is £422,700 according to land registry data from late 2025. And Havering is the borough where the London housing market reveals its most honest contradiction. Romford is a proper town, not a high street that is trying to be a town with a market that has been running since 1247, a covered shopping center, a brewery that dates to the 1700s, an entertainment district, and the Elizabeth line at Romford Station that puts Liverpool Street 14 minutes away. 14 minutes. The same journey from Kensington takes longer. Upminster is the other end of the story. The district line terminates here. It is one of the greenest, quietest, most suburban addresses inside Greater London. Detached houses with double garages and large rear gardens change hands in Upminster at prices that would be impossible anywhere west of the North Circular. The green belt begins immediately beyond the borough boundary. The surrounding countryside is accessible on foot. Havering ranked near the bottom of some livability indexes in 2026, primarily driven by well-being scores in the Romford town centre areas. That ranking applies to the borough as an aggregate. It does not apply equally to every street in Hornchurch or every cul-de-sac in Emerson Park, where the housing stock, the school performance, and the quality of daily life tell a different story than the borough average implies. The buyers who understand the difference between a borough average and a neighborhood reality are the ones finding value in Havering that the aggregate score obscures. Greenwich is a borough of about 290,000 people in southeast London, running from Woolwich on the Thames south through Eltham and Kidbrooke to the borough boundary with Bromley. The average house price in Greenwich is £423,800. For a borough that contains the prime meridian of the world, a royal park of 183 acres with views across the Thames to Canary Wharf, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and one of the finest formal landscapes in England, that price remains one of London's least discussed anomalies. Greenwich Town Centre, the historic core around the market, the Painted Hall, and the park, is a world-class destination that most Londoners treat as a day trip, and that the people who actually live there navigate on a Tuesday morning with a coffee in hand. The National Maritime Museum, the Cutty Sark, the Royal Observatory, these are the daily backdrop for residents who bought into Greenwich before the tourist brochures arrived, and for the buyers arriving now, who are still finding that the SE10 postcode does not command the premium the address deserves. But Greenwich is not just the postcode on the tourist map. Woolwich, the riverside town on the eastern edge of the borough, with its Elizabeth line station and its major regeneration underway at the former Royal Arsenal, is where the cheapest entry points exist, and where the gap between current price and 10-year trajectory looks widest. Eltham, in the south of the borough, has streets of 1930s housing with Art Deco influence, good schools, and a level of community infrastructure that most outer London boroughs do not match. In Eltham Palace, an English heritage-managed medieval Great Hall attached to a 1930s Art Deco mansion, sits in the middle of a residential southeast London borough like an accident of history that nobody quite believes is real until they see it. The DLR, the Elizabeth line, the Jubilee line, and National Rail all serve different parts of Greenwich. For a borough at £423,800 average, the transport case is one of the strongest in outer London. Bexley is a borough of about 250,000 people in southeast London, bordering Kent to the south and the Thames to the north. The average house price in Bexley is £400,800, according to 2026 land registry data. It is the fourth cheapest borough in Greater London, and Bexley is the borough where the distance between the price and the product is possibly wider than anywhere else on this list. The housing stock in Bexley is predominantly 1930s and post-war semi-detached and detached houses, the kind built for working families who needed space, gardens, and proximity to both London and the Kent countryside. Sidcup, Bexley Heath, Welling, Crayford. These are towns with functioning high streets, community infrastructure, local parks, and the kind of residential streets that feel like a place where people actually live rather than a transient population rotating through. Bexley Heath is the civic heart of the borough. The Broadway shopping center gives it a retail function, the town hall, the parks, And 2 miles away, in a leafy Bexley Heath suburb, sits the Red House, the home built for William Morris by Philip Webb in 1859, considered the first arts and crafts house ever constructed. It is owned by the National Trust. It is open to the public. It sits in an ordinary street of semi-detached houses in one of the cheapest boroughs in London. That is not a metaphor. That is a fact about what Bexley contains. The Elizabeth line at Abbey Wood, on the borough's western edge, transformed the connectivity picture in 2022. Journey times from parts of Bexley to Canary Wharf fell to under 15 minutes. To the city, under 25. The price has not moved commensurately with that infrastructure arrival. It will, but not yet. Croydon is a borough of about 400,000 people, the largest borough in London by population, 10 miles south of the city, with direct rail to London Bridge in 15 minutes and Victoria in 20. The average house price in Croydon is £393,300. For the largest and one of the most connected boroughs in the entire capital, that price is a function of a single event in 2020 and the reputational shadow it cast. The council's Section 114 notice, its effective bankruptcy declaration, the largest in UK local government history, has shaped how buyers outside the borough perceive Croydon ever since. Council tax rose sharply as the finances were rebuilt, services were cut, the coverage was extensive, and the impression it created in the minds of buyers who do not live here is persistent and, in many postcodes, deeply inaccurate. Because inside that £393,000 average, there are things that Croydon has which most boroughs at this price cannot offer. The detached house in Sanderstead or Purley that costs £600,000 would cost £900,000 in Richmond or Kingston. The Victorian terrace in Norbury or Thornton Heath that changes hands at £400,000 would be £650,000 in Tooting. The 15-minute train to London Bridge puts Croydon closer to the city on journey time than Hammersmith. That combination of price and connectivity does not exist anywhere else in London at this scale. The regeneration pipeline is real and still active. Westfield's development on the Whitgift Centre site is moving. The tram network gives Croydon an internal circulation system that most London boroughs lack. Fairfield Halls reopened in 2019 after a major restoration. The borough is not broken. It had a financial crisis that became a narrative. The narrative priced it down. That pricing is what makes it an opportunity. Newham is a borough of about 380,000 people in East London, home to Stratford, West Ham, Green Street, and the Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park. The average house price in Newham is £403,000. For a borough with the Elizabeth line, the Jubilee line, the DLR, Overground, and National Rail all running through it, and with the best transport connectivity of any outer borough in East London, that price is structurally anomalous. The reason it is anomalous is also honest. Newham has the highest crime rate of any London borough when measured against the national average, a flood risk profile that sits above most of the capital, and a new build flat market that has been under sustained pressure as investors exit and resale values correct. Those are real constraints on demand, and they produce real pricing that the buyer who looks only at the transport map will miss. But within a borough of 380,000 people and 36 square kilometers, the averages cover a very wide range of realities. The Victorian terraces of Forest Gate carry a completely different character to the new build towers of Stratford. Green Street's independent food market and trading culture has been running for decades and bears no resemblance to the CGI renderings of the International Quarter development a mile to the north. Plaistow's residential streets, predominantly Edwardian terraces with bay windows and rear gardens, offer a housing product at Newham prices that would double in value if they were located in the adjacent boroughs of Waltham Forest or Hackney. The Elizabeth line at Stratford, the Jubilee line at West Ham, the DLR at Canning Town, the Overground at Forest Gate, multiple national rail connections. No other outer London borough at this price point has this infrastructure density. The buyers doing the arithmetic, rather than the vibe check, are arriving in Newham with more frequency every year. Sutton is a borough of about 210,000 people in South London, sitting about 10 miles south of the city. The average house price in Sutton is £440,900, and Sutton is the borough on this list that most challenges the assumption that cheap means compromised. Sutton consistently ranks among the top London boroughs for school performance across both primary and secondary education. St Helier Hospital, a full district general hospital, sits within the borough. The crime rate in Sutton is among the lowest of any London borough. The green space coverage is high. The housing stock is predominantly 1930s and post-war semi-detached family homes that provide the kind of living space, garden, driveway, separate rooms, ceiling height, that buyers in Zone 2 spend their careers dreaming about. Sutton has not historically benefited from the infrastructure investment that has reshaped adjacent outer boroughs. The Thames Link and southern connections to London Bridge and Victoria work. They are not transformative, they are functional and reliable. But Sutton Council has submitted a proposal for a Crossrail 2 station. The route is unconfirmed. It may not arrive in this decade, but the planning conversations around it are active, and the development community has been aware of the potential long enough to start looking at land near the station. There are buyers in Sutton who purchased here specifically because they identified the gap between what the borough delivers, schools, safety, space, hospital, and what it charges relative to comparable boroughs with similar profiles. That gap exists because Sutton's name does not carry the same cultural weight as Richmond or Kingston. The data does not support that differential. The price does, which is, in the end, the point. Bromley is the largest borough in Greater London by area, a massive stretch of southeast London that transitions from urban density in Penge to genuine rolling countryside in Biggin Hill. The average house price in Bromley is £452,100, according to 2026 Land Registry data. While it sits at the higher end of our cheap list, Bromley is here because of the sheer variety and quality of life that £450,000 unlocks. This is a borough of 330,000 people where the village feel isn't a marketing slogan, it's the geography. Places like Chislehurst and Petts Wood offer Edwardian charm, while the heart of Bromley Town Centre has undergone a massive £15 million regeneration of its public realm. The Glades Shopping Centre remains one of the strongest retail hubs in South London, and the borough consistently ranks as one of the safest in the capital. The transport case for Bromley is unique. It doesn't have the tube, and for years, that was its protection against skyrocketing prices. Instead, it relies on a dense network of national rail stations. From Bromley South, you can be in Victoria or Blackfriars in under 20 minutes. It is a faster commute than many Zone 3 underground stations, yet you are living in a borough where over 50% is protected greenbelt land. The Bromley anomaly is that you can find a pocket for every budget. In the north, around Annerley and Penge, entry prices are significantly lower, attracting the creative crowd priced out of Crystal Palace. In the south, you have genuine rural living. It is a borough that functions like a self-contained county, providing a middle-class lifestyle at a price point that, in 2026, feels like a structural escape hatch from the madness of inner London. Number 1 on this list is Barking and Dagenham, the official cheapest London borough in the February 2026 UK House Price Index, published by the government at gov.uk. The average house price here is £364,000 in London in 2026. The London average is £525,000. Kensington and Chelsea averages £1.2 million. Even the cheapest flat across all of London costs £430,000 on average. And here is an entire borough of 220,000 people with its own tube connections, its own town centers, its own parks, its own schools, its own NHS hospital, its own 15-year regeneration pipeline, where the average price of a home across all property types is £364,000. The Elizabeth line runs through the borough. Barking Station is a major interchange. District Line, Hammersmith and City Line, Overground, and Elizabeth Line services all stop here. From Barking, the Elizabeth Line puts Bond Street 38 minutes away. Canary Wharf is 17 minutes. Liverpool Street is 18. These are not aspirational journey times. These are Transport for London timetable figures. Barking Riverside, 10,800 homes being built on the former Barking Power Station site along the north bank of the Thames, is one of the largest residential development projects in England. The London Overground extension to Barking Riverside opened in 2022, creating a rail connection to a site that will eventually house over 30,000 people. Dagenham, at the eastern end of the borough, is home to a growing science and technology park on the site of the former Ford plant. The Beam Park development is adding 3,000 new homes to the southern part of the borough. The crime rate in Barking and Dagenham sits above the London average and well above the national average. Robbery runs at more than 3 times the national figure. Those numbers are from the Metropolitan Police and they belong in this video. A buyer making a decision based only on the price without knowing the crime data is making an incomplete decision. So, is a buyer dismissing a £364,000 average in a borough with Elizabeth line access without knowing those numbers? The number on the land registry entry, £364,000 for the cheapest borough in a capital city of 9 million people, is the kind of number that is either a warning or an opportunity, depending entirely on what you do with it.